Hola, welcome to Chi-Town, everybody. Soccer Down here, WallPassWednesday, live edition from the road in Chicago. Atlanta United and the Fire tonight in Bridgeview, not in Chicago. We're in Chicago. We'll head to Bridgeview in a little bit. Interesting match for Atlanta United tonight. We'll get into all the particulars of that, but it's a WallPass Wednesday live Q&A, so we're taking your questions. You can tweet at us at Soccer Down Here, at Longshoe, and at Mike Conti 929.
I'll tell you, I can get used to these WallPass Wednesdays on the road. Last week we were in Toronto, quayside, literally right on Lake Ontario. We just had an unbelievable Greek lunch. And now we are literally in the shadow of the Sears Tower as we look out our window here. And we just had Lou Malnati's. So we have done pretty well on the WallPass Wednesday post-lunch editions so far. We don't have another Wednesday road trip until we go to Cincinnati. And I am not eating Skyline chili. So I'm going to have to draw the line.
You're drawing the line on Skyline chili.
The line is drawn.
Man, it's been a long time since I've had Skyline chili. Yeah. I lived in Lexington for a while, and Skyline had infiltrated into Kentucky.
No food of that color should be consumed by humans.
Oh, no.
Like, I would have trouble feeding Fred and Clark that.
Oh,
because
no.
it looks like they're canned dog food. It really does. I mean, think about it. Humans willingly eat chili that looks like dog food.
And I like chili.
I like chili, too. I like it when it's colorful and has vegetables. And,
yes.
About the only thing that Skyline chili gets right is the inordinate amount of cheese that you put on it.
They go heavy with the cheese.
I'm a big fan of cheesing the chili. I think that is a proper move. But no, we will not be doing that in Cincinnati. We'll see if we can find a big boy. You did some advanced scouting driving from Lexington to Columbus, so maybe we'll do a big boy.
Frisch's Big Boy's good stuff. You can always go German in Cincinnati, too.
You could,
that's a favorite.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much. Or Polish.
Yeah.
Big Polish population there. I love pierogies. Yeah. So, we'll see.
We've got options, but that's a while down the road. This is a weird part of the schedule, and I feel like we've been talking about it a lot, but you look around the league, and you're getting weird results. You're seeing weird lineups. It's just a really difficult time for so many teams. And I feel like Atlanta's in a really good spot to deal with it, even if tonight's lineup is a little weird. And I could see it getting weird because of that Red Bulls match coming up on Sunday. I could see a lineup where Joseph is not starting but maybe plays off the bench. Pitti doesn't start but maybe plays off the bench. I could even see a lineup where LGP or Miles Robinson doesn't start. I mean, you've got the options.
I think with your center backs, it's a little less likely because you were able to buy them a game off during Open Cup. I do worry about the workload for LGP and Miles because they've played in every league game this year.
And you're going to have an intense one on Sunday. Yeah. They're going to have a lot of work to do with being pressed.
But I think, again, because it's Wednesday, Sunday, and not Wednesday, Saturday, I think they would probably be okay. Now,
the other thing that factors in, though, is you've got an Open Cup quarterfinal next Wednesday.
You absolutely do.
And you could use this in some ways as an opportunity if you're going to lean on Florentine Pogba at center back, or you're going to lean on Mikey Ambrose at left back, or whatever it's going to be. You might try to give them a run out tonight.
You could. You're also playing a USL Championship team in Open Cup. You might be able to. And again, I mean, we're spitballing here. Maybe Mikey Ambrose plays Friday for ATL UTD too.
Right, you do have that possibility.
And then you have the possibility of getting him activated for that. Then he could potentially be ready to go for next Wednesday. It could be the same case for Florentine Pogba. I think you have to have Pogba in your 18 tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to get stuck on the center backs. I know where you're going, and I agree with you in principle. I think up top, it's a much different story. And we've talked a couple times since Saturday's 2-1 win over Montreal about the possibility of Pitti Martinez maybe not starting tonight, maybe coming off the bench. Pitti has played a lot better when he's fresh this year, hasn't he? He's played a lot better when he's come off the bench. I think you have an opportunity tonight, if you feel comfortable, surely you'll feel comfortable with Miram.
Yes.
I think you would feel good about Pereira potentially starting on the right.
Yep.
You could put Gressel kind of centrally, Vasquez up top, and then bring on Pitti after an hour. Yeah. I think you could get away with doing that. I'm not suggesting that's what they will do, but I think you can get away with that. Frank, to me, it's starting to feel, Jason, like Frank has a much better feel for his team now than he did this time in March.
Yes.
And one of the things that stands out to me is that Frank seems to be making his selections based on rhythm and momentum, and Justin Merrim's in great form right now. And until that changes, I think Justin Merrim continues to start. Dion Pereira, not in a starting role, but came on and had a big impact in the match against Montreal. He may have earned himself a start as a result. Pitti had a not great second half on Saturday and was taken out of the game because he was making decisions that were putting the team in danger. If Frank is making kind of rhythm-based, momentum-based selections, you could absolutely see the possibility of Pitti coming off the bench tonight.
Another interesting wild card that has been making the rounds is Andrew Carlton did make the trip, according to Brandon Vasquez's Instagram or Snapchat. I can't remember one or the other.
Did or did not?
Did.
Oh, well, that was quick.
You could see a situation where it's okay. You have been, publicly rebuked. You had to travel knowing I don't know if he knew he wasn't going to play, but you had to go to Loudoun and you were not going to play in that game. You've been, in a lot of ways, probably embarrassed publicly for the first time. Sometimes you do see a manager then say, okay, you've went through it. Now show me on the field. Show me something's different. And tonight would be a night when you look at those lineup possibilities, because I do think Julian Gressel could be a bit of a question. He's taken a knock in both of the last two games. It's affected him in the game. If he's not ready to give you 90 minutes, maybe it opens the door. And maybe it is kind of not a last chance at all, but a show me, it's time.
Boy, that's interesting. We've talked about this a couple times, how sometimes to motivate a young player, they need a kick in the ass. Other times they need a pat on the back. And Frank did not sugarcoat anything when it came to the Andrew Carlton situation, and didn't sugarcoat again on Monday when he was asked about it again.
And you couldn't. I mean, that's the thing, is there's nothing you could do at that point.
But here's the point. Okay, you've kind of torn him down in the media, and now it's time to maybe build him back up.
Yes.
And a positive gesture would be to give him some playing time with the first team tonight. I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility, now that we discussed this, that Andrew Carlton might start tonight.
Yeah.
It makes sense for a lot of different reasons. And then if he's not giving you anything, you've got a lot of options to take him out and replace him.
Could be that challenge.
But if that ends up being the case, I think we'll learn a lot about Andrew Carlton tonight and his mentality as a professional. Because, boy, he should be fired up. And, boy, he should be feeling like he's got a point to prove after everything that's happened, not just over the last couple weeks, but all year. Very intriguing possibility. And it gives you more flexibility to deal with Pitti, to deal with Gressel, which is a big, big concern. I mean, he's gotten kicked early in each of the last two matches.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about Gressel, but those last two games, that's definitely something that was noticeable to me, was that he wasn't sharp after those knocks.
Right.
And you've had a couple now. Is it adding up? Is it a bit of an issue?
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. This lineup tonight could be very interesting, and I think the Red Bulls game coming up on Sunday plays into that.
It's funny how, a couple months ago we were clamoring for Miles Robinson and maybe Darlington Nagbe to be selected to the U.S. men's national team. And now Atlanta United is in an enviable position in league play that Chicago is not in, Red Bulls certainly are not in, where they have guys called up with teams still alive in Gold Cup. Red Bull's really affected by it, but Chicago too. Georgi Mihailovic is a big loss.
That's a big loss.
Big loss for them tonight. And Atlanta United's got all their international players back now. Now it's just the injuries with Barco and Villalba, but everyone's back. Kind of worked out for Atlanta United. And even with the absence of Joseph and the prolonged absence of Barco with Argentina and then injured, and with Villalba, You've still been able to weather this storm. You've won 10 of your last 13 across all competitions. But the reason why, to go back to what you said at the very top of the show, why there have been so many weird lineups and so many weird results is because so many different teams are rotating right now. Atlanta United doesn't necessarily have to do it in the same way that we're seeing Portland rotate, that we're seeing Orlando rotate, that we're seeing New York City and some of those other teams, Philadelphia, the way that they've had to rotate. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise that Greg Berhalter did not select Miles Robinson, although even if he did, I think Atlanta United would be okay with Florentin Pogba at center back, based on what we've seen.
Yeah, I think Pogba, and then you also would have Michael Parkhurst factoring in too.
And Lorenowitz too.
Yeah, that's true. You've got a lot of depth. You've got a lot of depth in a lot of different spots, and now you're going to have more depth in the central midfield starting next week when Emerson Hyndman is part of the group. Really looking forward to seeing him mix in with this group. I think he has the perfect characteristics to fit in the way Frank de Boer wants to play and to give you something a little different and give you more options in the midfield. I mean, you could go heavy in possession in the midfield. You could mix things up, and you have a lot of different players with a lot of different personalities that I think can fit and give the team a different look depending on the opponent. There's just not many teams in MLS that have that luxury right now.
Yeah, we were talking about this at lunch as we were eating that brick that was also called a pizza.
Gigantic, huge pizza.
You made a point on stoppage time yesterday that has really stuck with me. Because we were... No, it's a good thing.
That's dangerous.
No, because we were talking about... It felt to me like Hyndman was being brought in as someone who could be... To say rotational player might be underselling it, but someone where if you look at the midfield, if you have 3 spots in the midfield and 4 guys, Hyndman is going to be in that group of 4 to get 3 spots. And you made a really good point about how you don't pay what Atlanta United paid for him to have him just there on your bench. An international spot in each of the next 2 years plus $150,000, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to give up. It's a real leap of faith. And, yeah, things didn't work out for him at Bournemouth, but they seem to work out a lot better for him at Hibs and a lot better for him at Rangers. And I think he's someone who can come in here and assimilate pretty quickly. And the thing I like the most about it is, as we all get impatient for Kevin Kratz to return or have his season finalized one way or the other, now you finally have that depth where if Darlington Nagbe needs a day off, or if Darlington Nagbe takes a knock or something happens, you don't feel like you're in a desperate spot. You feel like Hyndman can give you that cover, but Hyndman can also be a companion to Nagbe in certain situations depending on who you're playing.
Yeah, I think there's situations where you could play them together. There's situations you could play them with Remedi. One or both with Remedi and Barco, or your number 10 slides out wide a little bit. You've got so many different possibilities. It's going to be really intriguing to see how fast he hits the ground running and how he fits into this group, because I think he's got just a really good skill set for this team and the way Frank de Boer wants to play.
Think about the moves this front office has made in terms of transfers and window signings. And it's not just Hyndman. Darlington Nagbe was a trade, correct, with Portland?
Right.
Remedi, that was a transfer window signing. Basically, Justin Merrim for Romario Williams, and Atlanta gave up a second-round pick.
Right.
Even Bobby Boswell, just from a character standpoint, someone that you brought in midway through 2017, that I think was very, very helpful from a locker room standpoint. You really have to tip your cap to Darren and Carlos, don't you? We don't know what Emerson Hyndman is going to become, but Atlanta United doesn't have a parade last year if not for Eric Remedi.
No.
And Atlanta United certainly doesn't have a parade if not for Darlington Nagbe last year. And Atlanta United probably doesn't get a result on Saturday if not for Justin Merrim.
Right.
And they probably aren't where they are right now in U.S. Open Cup without Justin Merrim. So they continue to push the right buttons, and that's why I have confidence that Hyndman is going to be an impact guy. Atlanta United, they don't make moves just for the sake of making moves. They make moves to create impacts. And I'm really excited to see how this turns out.
Yeah, it might be next year where you truly see the impact, because it also gives you a lot of roster flexibility going forward. And that's going to be, I think, a big topic as you get later this season and you start looking at that winter transfer window and looking at what next year's roster looks like, because you're going to have guys whose contracts are up, and it's not going to be easy to keep everybody you want to keep. It never works out that way. So now you've got a little more flexibility to deal with that. We're taking questions. It's WallPass Wednesday, and I think we have a few, so let's go ahead and jump into it.
Jason Hindley says he likes Atlanta 2-0 tonight with Joseph getting a brace.
I really wonder how much Joseph's going to play tonight, because I do think he's going to play. I think he probably wants to play. I don't know if he's ready to give you starting minutes. I'd be completely fine with him coming in at the 60-minute mark. And then basically being able to tell Brandon Vasquez, who puts in a ton of work, works very hard, covers a lot of ground, give me 60. Give me everything you have in 60 instead of 90. Joseph's going to come in and finish it out, because we want to get him activated and get him back ready to go for Sunday. That'd be a perfect trade-off for me.
Jordan Webb wants to know, what are we getting in a player like Emerson? His highlights make him look like Rajon Rondo, someone with a lot of assists, a lot of defense, but Jordan wants to know, does he have any scoring ability?
That's one of the best cross-sport comparisons that I've heard. That's really good.
Let's hope he's not as crazy as Rajon.
He's definitely not that. He seems like a pretty quiet guy.
But
by all accounts.
Hyndman played for Dallas, or came up through Dallas.
At a very young age.
Rondo played in Dallas, so I don't even know if Jordan realized that, but that's another comparison.
Okay, I think in personality, completely different. On the field,
Hopefully.
somewhat similar. I don't think he's a guy who's going to score a ton of goals. I mean, this is a player who at the 2015 U20 World Cup, first he was the U.S. captain, and second, a lot of people had him in an all-tournament team situation, and he was described at that point in the comparison, which is lofty, was a player like Andrea Pirlo, a player who's going to sit in the midfield and be a deep-lying playmaker. And if you're looking at comparisons in Major League Soccer, Transfermarkt compared him to Russell Canals, which I would disagree with, because I think he's more of a player on the ball than Canals is. He was compared to Jackson Newell from San Jose. That's not bad. I think he's more like a Will Trapp, Michael Bradley type in terms of a deep-lying central midfielder who can eat up a ton of touches and is going to be able to hit every pass you need, whether it's 5, 10, 25, 50 yards. And in this type of system that is possession dominant, he should be a great fit.
Yeah, I'll be anxious to watch him. The exciting thing is, if he can assimilate quickly, and I don't think he can officially train with the team yet, but you obviously know
he can train.
Town.
Yeah, he can train.
He can train.
Yeah, he's not eligible to play.
I think you could see him as quickly as a week from tonight against St. Louis.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really a high-risk proposition to do that.
No.
You're playing against a USL team. I don't want to demean St. Louis. I mean, I'm really not trying to do that.
Well, the thing is, you're playing against a USL team that is kind of the traditional second division team. It's a lot of defense. They're big. They're direct. They're not going to be on the ball a whole lot. And in a game like that, you'd like to have a player like Hyndman who is going to be on the ball a lot and be able to set that tempo. You know, there are, and I think New Mexico is a little bit different when you look at other USL teams in that they can play. They can play more wide-open game with an MLS team. St. Louis is a little more limited in who they are and the way they play.
Yeah, Jason Hindley corrects me, by the way. I think I said Joseph would have a brace. He said a Martinez brace. I assumed it was Joseph, but he says, to be fair, I didn't specify which Martinez. You are right, Jason. I'm sorry. Well, if Pitti gets a brace,
love that.
Boy, that would shut a lot of people up.
People would relax then.
Yeah. The more and more we kind of workshop this lineup tonight, I'm just not 1,000% sure that Pitti has to start.
He doesn't have to.
Now, I think we've sat and workshopped a lot of lineups before with the assumption that Pitti wouldn't even play, and we see him in the starting 11. Mm-hmm. So it's been a little bit unpredictable. Pitti might be in a similar boat to what we talked about with Andrew Carlton, where Frank had some pretty honest, correct, but honest, fair remarks about Pitty's performance in the second half on Saturday, and now here's an opportunity potentially for Pitty to quiet a lot of the doubters and show the quality that we know he has. So, if that happens, I'll lose my mind tonight. I would take a 2-0 win on the road and run to the airport
I don't care
any day. Never apologize for a multi-goal win on the road. They have been extremely rare. I mean, really, this year for Atlanta United, their road wins, when they've won road matches, they've actually been dominant.
Yeah.
Completely dominated SKC, completely dominated New England. Vancouver 1-0.
Pretty dominant.
Absolutely controlled that
pretty
match.
Dominant.
And then what was the fourth one? It wasn't Red Bulls. It wasn't RSL. It wasn't Toronto, actually, obviously. They had a fourth road win, and it's not coming to me right now.
I am blanking on it.
The Columbus U.S. Open Cup match,
Yes.
I'm not counting that. That's a cup game. But, here, I'll pull it. I'm being lazy right now. I'll pull it up really quick. But for whatever reason, the matches that Atlanta United has won on the road this year, they've been really very dominant in those performances. When they have not won on the road, they've had some head-scratching things happen to them. So we'll see. Is it possible they only have 3 league road wins?
I'm thinking that's the case.
And I guess all competitions, it would be the 4th with Columbus.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a number that needs to improve. Because
it's tough. It's tough in this league.
Yeah.
It's tough, and with the schedule Atlanta's had, I mean, you look at where those road games fell, you had some weird ones at tough times, so it's not easy. It's not easy to go on the road and do what Atlanta did last year.
3-5-0 in league play on the road, 4-7-0 across all competitions.
3-5-0 is not bad on the road in this league. It's really not bad. There's not many teams with better records than that on the road. It's a tough thing to do. That's why tonight is interesting, because Chicago is 4-7-7 on the season. They've been really just wildly inconsistent at times. It's a team that feels like they're not getting everything that they should be getting, because they're producing chances, they're not finishing them, they're giving up bad goals. It's just an awkward team to try to predict, and I think missing Mihailovic really hurts them, and it's not being talked about much how effective he is for them.
3-1 loss Friday to Red Bulls, but they dominated the match.
Yeah.
They dominated the match. They put a lot of shots on.
A late goal in the third one for the Red Bulls,
which was the backbreaker. So Red Bulls, I think, led 2-0. Yep. Chicago got their goal to make it 2-1.
2-0 against the run of play, completely. 26 shots for Chicago in that one, but Sapong and Nikolic just could not find the back of the net as often as they needed to.
All right, here's one for Michael Head, Jason. He says, hate to bring it up, but what do you all see as the main reasons for Pitty's slow start? Surely the league in Argentina is as good or better than MLS, but he seems to get overmatched physically.
It's different, and that's the thing that I think is tricky about where MLS projects worldwide, because Boca and River in Argentina are a cut above. I think the next tier of teams, your Independientes, Racing, who won the title last year, Defensa and Justicia is kind of a Cinderella story in a lot of ways. But your Grandes, your big clubs are probably better than anybody in MLS. But then that next tier is pretty comparable. But it's a different style of play. It's a different style of just the way the game is presented, a different style of refereeing, a different type of surface. I mean, there's so many differences. And the thing about Pitty that I think it's easy to forget at times, I've heard a lot of people say that, well, he's an adult, he's in the middle of his career, he should be able to transition better. He'd never played professionally outside of Buenos Aires. Mm-mm. I mean, Huracan and River Plate are both right next to each other essentially. So that's a big transition. And believe he got married, before the season started. That's a big transition. Coming to the country with the family, it seems like he's getting settled and he's happy. And you see pictures on his Instagram of going to the lake, and all those things are really good. A player like Pitty is not a typical player. And that's why it's so hard to quantify, because honestly, I think you're talking about an artist. You're talking about a player who is a feel player. And, when you look at golfers, for example, who are feel players, sometimes it just gets away from them, and there's nothing they can do to go change it. You go work with an instructor, that's not going to help you. Pitty's a guy who has to feel it, and right now it hasn't been consistent for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and I think there's also a major parallel between what Barca was going through this time last year and what Pitty's going through now, where I think Pitty is really getting frustrated with the way he's being officiated. Yeah. And I've seen the complaint that he needs to stay on his feet more. I think there is partial truth to that, but I think
that's where referees come into play and the differences between referees, because 100%. In other leagues, when you go down and stay down, I mention it from time to time in calls that you're trying to make a point to the referee. And I think in Argentina and in different countries where that happens, referees see it and they think, maybe I missed something here, maybe I need to keep a closer eye on that. Whereas I do believe that referees in this country are taught that, no, that's unacceptable, and he's trying to show me up. Mm-hmm. And it changes the perception, and that's not something you can just immediately change the way you've played your whole life.
Totally agree with that. Now, all that said, tonight you have a referee I really like in Kevin Stott. And you have a VAR I really like in Alan Chapman. Very experienced crew tonight. It's been a very fuzzy line on the way that Pitty has been officiated this year, and it's something that I think he needs to get over. But remember that Barca went on to lead the league in drawn fouls per minutes played last year, and now look at where Ezequiel Barco is. So it's a situation that I don't believe to be hopeless.
It's nowhere near that. That's what's so frustrating about it is some of the storylines about the way he's playing, you would think that he is a black hole on the field, and it's just not the case. No. Toronto, I thought, you could have given him out of 10 a 7.5 or a 7 before the missed penalty at the end, and that's such a big thing that happens. You have to take a big score off. First half against Montreal was not that far off. Second half, the wheels fell off. Mm-hmm. And the second half, you needed to make the sub when you did. And I thought Frank being very clear in saying he was giving the ball up when we were exposed, when we had numbers forward, when you can't turn the ball over. That's when it was turning over. And what Frank said after the game was like, I don't know why, but I didn't have time to figure out why. You got to fix it.
Yeah, and keep something else in mind, too. You were on a Wednesday-Saturday turnaround with international travel on Thursday, and a late flight on Thursday, and usually late flight for them coming back from Toronto. So Thursday was a lost day. You aren't going to do too much hard on Friday going into another match. So a lot of things just did not align for Pitty to have a very strong second half on Saturday, and a lot of it was not even in his control.
No, and he had a decent first half. I mean, it wasn't bad, and I think the thing about Pitty is the expectation is massive, and it should be, and that's not a bad thing. But you also do have to look at it, I think, over the big picture here, and Pitty needs to play better, needs to impact matches more, but because he is not playing like he did last year as a South American Player of the Year at River Plate, doesn't mean it's a failure.
Right.
It means there's room for him to play better, and you want to see that in the second half of the season.
And if it happens, look out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You get the second half of the season, you get Barco back, you get Pitty hitting on all cylinders, you get Joseph doing Joseph things, Tito, Gressel, Merrim, all of them contributing in different ways, on top of what I think is the best defense in the league. You're talking about a potential MLS Cup repeat.
In a very different way than you did it last year. But
in a different way than you did it over the season, but in a fairly similar way as what you did in the postseason.
No, yeah, almost identical way to how you did in the postseason.
Kind of, yeah.
Remember that Sporting Kansas City was the last MLS Cup champion to allow 30 goals or fewer over the course of the season. Atlanta United is on pace to give up 28. So SKC was in 2012, I think, when that happened. 2011 or 2012?
2014.
It was
2013 was the year they won it.
Yeah, sorry. 13. Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. It was between 12 and 14.
Yeah, we were there. Eventually.
So, I mean, Atlanta United's on the verge potentially of doing something historic the way that they've been defending. But this just feels like a really kind of weird, tricky match tonight. Mm-hmm. You hope that this is a college football term, but you hope there's not the look-ahead factor to Sunday. Sunday is setting up to be a blockbuster, very emotional match. But Sunday doesn't mean anything if you can't get at least a point tonight. If you get at least a point tonight, you're in position to maybe jump to first in the East on Sunday.
It means something in a different way. It means something in a very negative way for Sunday. It puts more pressure on it.
100%.
You need to get something tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's a draw, it's a draw. But I think Atlanta United, they've been pretty dominant against Chicago Fire, home and road, with the exception of the Open Cup match last year where Atlanta United was not really playing a true first-choice lineup. I think without Mihailovic tonight, Atlanta United's in a good spot, but they need to go out and execute and play their game.
I think you can attack Chicago down the flanks. I want to see what they do at outside back tonight. We've seen Brant Bronico play some right back. That's a work in progress. I would attack him down that left side. And if that's Justin Merrim, I like Justin Merrim's chances going 1v1 against players. You saw what he could do on Saturday in those situations. And I think Merrim's a player who is regaining his confidence and regaining, I think, who he has been in this league. And he's another one. You know, you talk about the personalities in this team. I think Justin is a player who is very happy to be here, very comfortable with this group. And he's made some, I think, quick friendships with guys, and that helps so much. Those little things. I think what Atlanta is starting to become is a place that soccer players want to come play. Like true soccer players who want to come play here. And I think Heineman is an example of that. Merrim is an example of that. Pity Martinez is an example of that. Guys who appreciate soccer being played the right way and played with skill and not just a physical kick and run. We want to be the fastest or the strongest. Guys who want some time on the ball and want to be artists. They're going to be appreciated here.
Yeah. I like your artist comparison, especially when it comes to Pitti. And let's see how this turns out. I mean, this is it's going to be an enlightening 2 weeks, and it really starts tonight. You do have the benefit of a little bit of time off, just a tad, before you play the match against LAFC. But you're looking at this stretch now at Chicago, home Red Bulls, U.S. Open Cup, St. Louis at Kennesaw, then at Seattle. I think it's reasonable you can get 4 points out of these next two road matches. But I think the Seattle one is tougher.
Yep.
But I think you can do that. And I think you can win both of your home matches. And if you do, then no complaints. You're in really, really good shape, and you're probably in first place in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, this is a team that I don't feel like is going to go into any match anywhere in the country or on the continent that's going to feel overmatched. And, I mean, even you go back to Monterrey, I don't think Atlanta United went in there with a negative approach. Mm-hmm. I think it was more conservative, obviously, but it wasn't a negative approach. I don't think they go to Seattle with that. I don't think they go to LAFC with that. I don't think you see any of that tonight. I think you see a team that is defensively strong like they were in the postseason last year, but the difference is that they want to be defensively strong while maintaining possession. Last year, it felt like you had to play off of the opponent more in a countering situation in the postseason. Now, you want to be strong defensively, but you want to have the ball so where you can create your own chances. It's a little bit different. And then you do still have the ability to counter, and you do still have the ability to get out fast because you have players who are good on the ball and can make things happen.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it's the halfway point of the season, and that was just kind of the theme on Monday. When there was immediate availability at training. But, the players who did speak on Monday spoke at really unusual depth about how they feel like at this point of the season, they're about where they were 2 years ago at this time with Tata Martino. Mm-hmm. And that it truly is a 6-month process to get adjusted to a new manager.
Yep.
Whether we like to admit it or not.
And style, I think a lot of people have hung up on that one where they're like, oh, well, you said the style wasn't going to be very different. That still doesn't matter. Right. It's different to a degree, and it's just a different personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. But it feels like they're a lot more comfortable now than they were 6 months ago. I think, again, the thing that encourages me is they know that they can be even better. Mm-hmm. And that's scary for the rest of the league. You've won 10 of your last 13. You feel like you can be better. That's very optimistic if you're an Atlanta United fan, and that's not fun to hear if you're a fan of anyone else in the league. But again, you've got to go out and play your game and convert. They did not really play their game in Toronto. Toronto, I thought, dictated to them quite a bit in that match for long spurts in both halves.
Too sloppy.
Yeah, and that was puzzling because I thought Atlanta United had played enough in Open Cup to keep them in a rhythm.
Same.
Now that's not even an excuse.
Nope.
Because you've had a lot of work over the last week. You should be in a rhythm. You should be switched on at the start of this match tonight. It'll be tough. You're playing in Bridgeview. Won't be a very big crowd. It's a little bit of a concern of rain. It looks good outside right now, but it's going to be tough when you play in that kind of environment because you have to generate your own energy, your own emotion. But Atlanta United has played pretty well in that situation this year. I mean, it was a morgue in Foxborough, and they came out and they pretty much dominated that match.
Man, I forgot all about
Yeah.
Foxborough.
Well, and then the Columbus Open Cup match, you might have had maybe 500 people there.
Yeah.
You played a closed-door match against Charleston, you won that. So small crowds, I guess, don't phase this time.
That's true. There will be fireworks tonight after the game. Maybe they won't play Zed's
Don't
the middle.
say. Don't even. Every time I hear that song, I know something bad's about
Well,
that.
we're not going to hear it today. Hopefully not, but hopefully it'll be celebrating an Atlanta United win tonight during the fireworks display. We will see how it goes. We're on the air 7:30 tonight at 92.9 The Game, also radio.com, also the Atlanta United app. SiriusXM?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Sunday we will be. Yeah. And Sunday, if you don't have tickets, you better get them now because this thing is going to be just bonkers all day. Gates open at 10:30, the Women's World Cup final with the United States and either Netherlands or Sweden, and they're playing right now. That will be 11 o'clock kick, just after 11 o'clock kick. And the doors open at 10:30, so you can get in and cheer on the United States or cheer on Netherlands or Sweden. I know we have some Dutch listeners as well, so if you want to cheer on Netherlands if they make it.
You're going to see a good match no matter who you're cheering for.
I think so.
And that's the exciting part about it. It could be one of the most memorable soccer days we've had in our city. And we've had a few very memorable ones.
It's set
lately,
up to be that.
But boy, I would be so tickled if you could get 30 or 40,000 people into that building in time for the World Cup final, watching on the Halo board. I think that's something that would go viral around the country and really kind of confirm what we already know about Atlanta being the soccer capital of this country, certainly in the Southeast. But it's on you to get there early. And Jason and I will be in the building very early. 92.9 is going to do a very lengthy pre-match starting at 9 a.m. So we're going to cover it like we're covering a Super Bowl, and it's going to be a great day, but it's on you to get your tickets and get there early, and nothing against tailgating. Tailgating's great, too.
Bump the tailgating up a little bit.
Just,
have some sausage and eggs and bacon on
and
the
Bloody
tailgate
Marys,
grill.
and then be ready to come on in, and yes, beer will be served, because Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a state-operated facility that is not beholden to Sunday sales laws.
Oh, boy. Pace yourselves. How about that?
Yeah, be around for the end of Atlanta United.
Hydrate. Water. Make sure you pace yourself because it's going to be a long day. But it's going to be a fun one, hopefully. So we're all looking forward to that. But it starts tonight with Atlanta and Chicago. After the match, we won't have a normal SDH tomorrow with it being the 4th and with us traveling back. But after the match, Mike and I will do kind of an extended full-time report after post-game show, whatever. So if you guys have questions, if you're catching the full-time report or you catch it late and you don't get your questions in, go ahead and tweet at us and we'll get to them after that. And that'll be available on demand on the SDH app at soccerdownhere.net and on Spreaker. And then we'll be back on Friday as we preview a Women's World Cup final and Atlanta and the Red Bulls. Huge matches. We'll probably talk about a Copa America final as well with Brazil in it and a Gold Cup final. We'll see if the U.S. gets into that. Mexico snuck in. It was quite a call in that match. I'm still a little skeptical. And Tata's happy now. He wanted VAR earlier in the tournament. Yeah. Now he's happy they don't have VAR. I don't know how he's feeling about it, but he'll be on the touchline for it. Lots of stuff coming up this week. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for all the questions. We'll be back with you guys in a little bit on 92.9 The Game.